With the 17th selection, the Seattle Seahawks have chosen guard from the University of Michigan, Steve Hutchinson.
Now there's a readjustment that there's no way that the Seahawks thought that he would be available.
We lost our starting left guard to free agency. So there was going to be a competitive situation there at left guard, and Hutchinson's going to come in and compete for that position and potentially start there.
Hey, hang on one second. Coach Holmgren wants to say something to you real quick.
And the phone rings, and I'm expecting it to be Detroit saying, well, we're picking in 2 picks we're going to give you. It was Seattle.
Hey, Steve. How's it going? Good. Listen.
Hey, it's Bill and Ace from Seattle. I'm going to put Coach Holmgren on. And
I'm about to turn your name in. We're very, very excited about this.
Mike saying, we're going to pick you. And I was like, I didn't even know where Seattle was on a map.
Landon Hutchinson. I am Steve's 8th grade sweetheart and wife, best friend, all of it.
I'm Adam Baker, and I've been friends with Steve Hutchinson since we were about 13 years old.
Terry Dunn. I was lucky enough to be the head football coach at Coral Springs High School when Steve Hutchinson, or Hutch, attended here.
Don Calloway. I met Steve Hutchinson playing here for Coral Springs High School back in 1993.
Steve has always been good at everything. He was just kind of that golden boy, I think. Again, would never tell you that he was good at anything. I love that about him so much. He, every sport he played, baseball, basketball, football, I mean, it just was one of those things that just came naturally to him.
My name is Charles Deviney, and I knew Steve. And he was in my 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade class. I think the neat thing about Landon, Steve, and Adam, and especially Steve, and I remember Steve in certain instances, when I'm teaching camping, in the yearbook over there's a picture of him setting up a tent as a 9th grader. Steve would automatically see a need for something happening, and he wouldn't say, Mr. Vinny, do you want me to do that? He would just take over as a leader, and he would just go ahead and solve that problem, not even involve me. And Landon did the same, and Adam did the same. And I think that's why they all clicked with each other. They all were supportive of each other, yet independent leaders.
Yeah, he was the all-American kid. I mean, his mom and dad, and honestly, obviously it starts with the parents and his raising and his morals and his values and ethics that his parents installed. His dad was a police officer, his mom worked here at the school. So anytime you have a mom working at a school, it changes the whole dynamics of being at the school, and then everybody was like a parent to him. But he didn't have to be. He was just like the all-American kid. He did everything, played baseball, basketball, football, flag football.
I was a teacher and coach at Coral Springs High School for 35 years. I had the opportunity to coach Steve throughout his high school career. When he was a freshman and he came in, he was 6'4", 225, and Coach Dunn said, we got a freshman that we want to take a look at. I remember coming home with a big smile on my face, and I said, honey, you should see this guy. And it just got better from there.
Without a doubt, we noticed right away, this guy's unique. He's one in a million. He's not only a great kid, a good student, a great football player. He picked up things quickly, but when he put on the football helmet, he changed completely. And that's how you get to that level, as far as I can see.
He said he was going to be in the NFL as an 8th grader.
I've been teaching here at Coral Springs High School for about 30 years. I saw the mannerly, Mr. Eichholz, thank you, that real nice kid. And then when I'm on the coaching staff and I'm watching him destroy people, and I'm like, wow, there's 2 guys. But he knew how to play at full speed and then pull it back and be Sandy and Fred's young man.
Every stage going from high school to college and college to the pros, the whole process, the transition process, is pretty reciprocal. And so by the time I got to Michigan, it was that same kind of mentality, but like you said, on a much bigger stage instead of this little stadium we had out here. you played in front of 110,000 people.
I mean, I was the one taking the, $69 flight to Michigan, to Detroit, out of Fort Lauderdale, and doing my homework on the plane. Like, I wasn't about to miss any of those opportunities. But when it came time to picking schools and the letters coming in, I mean, I just was excited to be there and kind of be on the ride with him.
Remember, he was a defensive lineman when he went to Michigan, and they converted him his sophomore season to the offensive line. And all he did there was end up all Big Ten 4 years in a row and first team All-American his last 2 years. So to do that, you have to be pretty athletic.
What I do remember is going back to the University of Michigan to their pro day, their workout day, and they had probably 8 players. I mean, really good football players that were going to get drafted. Bo Schembechler, the old coach at Michigan, came up to me and goes, "Mike, how's it going?" I said, "Good. Coach, how you doing?" And he goes, "Let me tell you something. You came here to see a lot of people. That's the guy you should pick." And he points to Steve.
I remember the day that Steve Hutchinson was drafted, and you looked at him and he was like looking at a boxcar. And maybe the best thing about him was he was willing to do what it took to become a Pro Bowler and an All-Pro that he eventually became. I remember in his draft day press conference, somebody asked him the question, and it was a pretty simple answer. He said, "There's nobody who's going to outwork me. I want to be the best."
I think the thing that made Hutch so great, was, I don't know that it was any one thing. If I had to narrow it down to one thing, it would just be his competitiveness.
Now when you tell a coaching staff like Tom Lovat and Coach Holmgren and those guys, yeah, we're just going to draft a rookie and put him in there, it's going to freak them out a little bit, right? And they have to have a lot of trust in the process and everything.
I was watching TV, I think the NFL Network, and I saw Holmgren talking about Steve.
He was clearly, in my opinion, the best lineman in the draft. And I felt very fortunate to get him. Every once in a while that happens, where you have him projected even higher and he's still on the board, and as it gets closer to you, you're going, oh, you got your fingers crossed, and then all of a sudden he's still there, you take him and you jump up in the air.
I want to come in and continue doing the things that work for me at the collegiate level and step up my game and come in here and do what I do best, to play guard, play offensive line. So hopefully I can have a good career.
Well, I've taught probably, over being a physics teacher in large classes, I've taught maybe 50, 60,000 students over the years, or 40 years of teaching. And I said, "Steve, what are you going to do?" He said, "I'm going to be a professional football player." And I looked at him and I said, "I have no doubt you're going to be a professional football player."
Man, he was a student of the game, a kid that understood the game. And, I think as offensive linemen, if you come in this game, you have to be able to run block and pass block. And from day one, he was able to do that. When we was together, we kind of set the tone. We was the nucleus of the team.
That was one of the great things about that offensive front, with Robbie Tobeck at center, Chris Gray on the other side at guard, Locklear at the other tackle, and of course Big Walt. Those guys played as one.
We knew early on that he was unique. You don't run into a lot of players like that, even in 37 years of coaching high school.
What makes the Super Bowl team special is the locker room, because I don't think you go to a Super Bowl without having a great locker room. The group of guys that I was able to play with for my time here, that core group and that 2005 group of Hutch and Walt and Chris Gray and Locklear and Womack and all those guys, we'd all played together for a number of years, and we knew each other well, and it's just a satisfying thing to be able to set some goals, go out and meet those goals. But we did it through hard work. One of the things that, when you look at Steve Hutchinson, you look at Walter Jones, special guys, they did not take days off.
That year was so special because every time we stepped on the football field, we know we was the best team. We know what we was going to do to attack that defense.
I think anybody on those teams in the early part of the 2000s there, the first half of that decade, will tell you, I think a big part of our success was our cohesiveness and how tight we were as an offensive line. Kind of set the standard for how we were going to be as a team.
I will say that Seattle was an incredible first experience. I think of it, and Steve and I both could probably say that it's like your first love.
Well, suffice it to say, the way we lost Hutch to the Minnesota Vikings, the season after the Super Bowl now, was the Seahawks put what in those days was sort of known as the transition tag. see what you can find, and give us the opportunity to match it. That's what the tag was all about. Well, his agent crafted a deal with the Vikings that said, okay, here's the amount of money that you're going to make, but also there's going to be a clause in this contract that says you are going to be the highest paid offensive lineman on the team. So for the Seahawks to match that, you're going to have to pay Steve Hutchinson more than Walter Jones. That just wasn't going to fly. Today, there are no poison pills in contracts, but too late for the Seahawks because they lost one of those building blocks up front.
Seattle was special because it just seemed like everybody was on the same page. Everybody had the same interest. You know, it was just kind of, it was, and once you leave, you just assume that's how it is everywhere. And you don't realize that you had something special till you don't really have that situation anymore.
You listen to a lot of guys and you ask them what they miss about football. They miss that part of the game where you're hanging out with these guys, you're having fun. You're with those guys most of the time longer than you're with your family.
What made our group special was that we competed with each other to be good.
You know, we kind of set the tone. You know, we was the nucleus of the team.
The group of guys that I was able to play with for my time here, that core group, you respected who they were and how good they were and what they brought to our team.
I think, you know, you remember where you came from and humble beginnings and how hard his parents worked and how many jobs they held in order to provide, you know, the opportunities that he had. Gosh, look at that. Wow. Who's that guy?
Yeah, a million years ago. Very cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, this is exactly about what it looked like. Seattle Seahawk left guard 2001 through 2005 seasons. I am Steve Hutchinson, Hall of Famer, I guess newly minted Hall of Famer.
Well, I saw the clip when he was told he was going into the Hall of Fame, and I saw this monster of a man kind of break down.
I'd love to congratulate Steve on his accomplishment. He's been amazing at everything he's done, from being a really good friend, father, and athlete on the field. He's just an incredible person all around.
Yeah, that's the highest level. I mean, the Hall of Fame is the highest you get, really.
You know, I mean, just the biggest thing is everybody's so happy for him. I mean, I'm happy for him. I'm just ecstatic that he was able to reach all of his goals.
There's nobody that deserves it more. There's nobody that worked harder for it. As I mentioned previously, he comes from a great family, and I'm sure they instilled that work ethic in him when he was very young.
Hey Steve, this is your old coach, and I just want to say congratulations on your induction into the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Hey, congratulations, man. Well deserved. Can't wait to see you in the Hall, man.
Hutch, congratulations to you and Landon, the whole family. We're super excited for you, from the Seahawks family to your family.
Well, you know, I think, Steve, from my point of view, I'm proud of you. You're getting the recognition that you deserved. And I know it didn't start the day the Seahawks drafted you and the day you got in the NFL, and you've worked your entire childhood, really, your entire life to get to this point.
Are you proud of him? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. The city's proud. When he goes in, I'm pretty sure everybody here is going to be watching.
I've seen pictures of my friends that have gone through this, and this is like, this makes it real.
Although I'm the one standing here today being honored, I would like to spend my time honoring the people that helped me along the way to make this possible.
It's been an absolute privilege and joy to be here from the beginning, and I couldn't be more proud of him.
I had set out to, when I started playing football, I wanted to be in the Hall of Fame. When I got the news and it finally sank in that I'm going to the Hall of Fame, I was able to take a breath and feel like I had accomplished that. For me, I can kind of look at my career and I have closure to it.